Cheers! Welcome to Movie Bitches, episode 178. Tonight we're reviewing 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
I was very excited about this whole cast. Frances McDormand, Sam Rockwell, who I love. I've loved him for years. I go see movies just for Sam Rockwell ever since he was in Charlie's Angels. He's the guy who dances, who sleeps with Drew Barrymore, and then is smoking a cigarette and dancing to that track.
We need to do a retro review.
Oh yeah! So
is it a two-parter? Do we do both of them?
Oh boy, maybe. I don't know. Sam Rockwell's not in the second one, and neither is Bill Murray, so I've got my problems. But no, I really love Sam Rockwell, and he's been one of my favorites. And John Hawkes is in it, Woody Harrelson. There was a lot of people that I was excited about.
Peter
Dinklage is in it. Yeah, so I was worried because I either really like Martin McDonagh movies or really don't. I didn't really care for In Bruges. I tried to like it. I think I even tried it twice. I saw it, didn't like it. Was everyone was oh, it's the best. So I tried to watch it again. And I was it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
And then I really liked Seven Psychopaths, which I don't think you've seen. This is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
It's not quite as funny as Seven Psychopaths. It's more of a serious.
It's a fairly serious drama, but it is a black comedy.
It's a black comedy, and I think with any really, really good writing or really specific tonal movies, you have to get it or you don't. It's
sure.
Kevin Smith dialogue or Woody Allen dialogue. You either it rolls off your tongue in the way it was supposed to,
yes,
or it absolutely does not, and
yes,
you stick out like a sore thumb.
Yes.
That was the case in this movie.
Yes.
There was a few clunkers.
Yeah, there were a few clunkers.
But on a whole, fabulous performances.
Agreed. The performances and Frances are part of why the Oscars are and the Golden Globes, everyone's yes!
Yeah.
Not that the movie is bad in any way, shape, or form.
No.
But I think that some of the issues that might have kept it from being as Oscar-worthy as it has become were pushed to the side because of how fabulous she and everyone else is.
Yeah. I don't think this movie is about racism.
No.
And yet people are seemingly, at least the negative responses I've been hearing is all of the minority characters are really thinly drawn and are one-dimensional, which is absolutely true.
Yeah.
And sort of its take on race and its ideas about racism are very one-dimensional and not. And I'm that's also very true, but I don't necessarily think that's what this movie's trying to convey.
No,
it's about guilt and forgiveness and revenge. It's about a bunch of other things with. The racism is in the background, and it's not there. But I don't think this movie is a statement piece on racism in America.
Not at all.
It's not.
I think that racism was used as a tool in this movie to give flavor to Sam Rockwell's character.
Yes.
And the town. And the town in general, but certainly it was focused on him and his mother a little bit, mostly on him and just his general hatred. There's a lot of emotional damage and emotional immaturity and resentment and all sorts of things in there that result in violence and anger and hate and intolerance and misunderstandings. But I think the film does a good job of pointing all of that out.
And I think because Sam Rockwell is such a talented actor, he really rides that line. Not where you necessarily like him at all, but you understand him.
You understand him by the end. And at the end, you kind of do like him.
You hope for him.
You have
hope for him.
Yes.
You're not fuck you, you're a piece of garbage, I hope you die,
Yeah.
whatever. But there's a hope for change.
Yes.
In his character because it's well drawn.
Yeah, and because you see him growing and you see those walls being torn down.
It's a bit quick.
Ironically,
but
one of the clunkers delivers the best line of the movie that anger begets anger.
Did you really tell him anger begets greater anger?
Oh, yes. I did. I didn't make it up myself, though.
But that was really part of it for me, where that was the theme of the film.
That's the thesis.
Yes.
Sort of, yeah.
Exactly.
Anger and hate begets anger and hate.
Yeah. And you see it in all of them.
Yeah.
She's fabulous, but she's not good.
No, she's also a bad person.
Well, spoiler alert.
Yeah, we haven't really. Okay, so this movie.
Wait, first things first, shout out to our wine sponsor, wing, trywing.com/moviebitches.
Yes.
You get $20 off your first month of wine.
Oh, close. So go see this movie.
Yeah.
Knowing that it is a somewhat pitch black comedy to the point of drama.
Yes.
You know, like it's right on that line.
Yeah.
And sometimes it wavers one way or the other.
Yep.
Knowing what you're getting, what you're in for. But definitely go see it. I feel like it's very interesting and well made and very well acted.
Yes.
So this movie is about Frances McDormand and her daughter who has been raped and murdered, and it's been 7 months.
Raped while murdered.
Well, you know, I was gonna get there.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That was the big reveal in the movie. In this small town in Missouri, and she rents out these 3 billboards to shine a spotlight on this case that's gone cold, you know, pointing out that the police department isn't doing all that they could. Yeah. Or were they? You know,
right.
You see both sides of everyone's story, for the most part. And I appreciated that.
I do too.
I
thought Woody Harrelson, I'm shocked. I don't understand how he wasn't nominated for a Golden Globe. I thought he was amazing.
I think he's great. I think he really gets tone.
Oh, yes.
Woody Harrelson gets
spoiler alert, he dies. And I, for the rest of the movie, was just like, I miss Woody Harrelson.
Where is he?
But also, his death kind of fixes everything, so maybe he's the problem, but he's not. But
it doesn't really fix everything. But yes.
Well, it changes everyone.
It shifts.
It was
everything.
Cataclysmic, it was a catalyst.
Yes. So she rents out these billboards to sort of shake it up and keep attention on the case, and like she is a very angry person, rightly so.
Yes.
And
it seemingly was before the rape and murder.
Yes. But she had that wicked sense of humor even before, which I did enjoy.
Can I borrow the car?
No.
Bitch!
I will give you the money for a taxi. If you ask me nicely, don't call me a bitch.
Why'd you make me ask you to borrow it if he was never gonna let me borrow it?
Because it was funny.
It was very interesting. I liked this movie. It put me in a weird place. It made me think. It made me laugh. It made me uncomfortable. It was like all of the above. A certain percentage of this movie is a fantasy. Not that it's ideal. It's not trying to go for uber realism.
No.
That's not the point.
No.
It's a character study.
Yes.
It's very much a play.
Yes, very much.
I'm surprised that it wasn't first. I mean, that guy is a playwright, right?
I think so.
It starts, so she puts up the billboards and Woody Harrelson's like, what the fuck? And she's just like, well, you should check everyone's DNA. Well, we checked everyone on file. Well, you should get everyone's blood from the town. Well, that's kind of a civil rights issue. Well, then you should check everyone in the entire country. Well, I mean, what if he was traveling from out of the country? Well, you should check the entire world.
And as soon as he'd done something wrong, cross-reference it, make 100% certain it was a correct match, then kill him.
It's just like, yeah. I mean, extreme. But yes. Put the fear in their hearts.
Sure.
She has a lot of great
She has so many great lines.
Speeches. Like, she gives a whole speech about, she compares the Catholic Church to Crips and Bloods and how, like,
there's the gang law, and if you're complicit.
If you're complicit, you join that gang.
Culpable.
You're culpable.
Yeah.
You're just as culpable as the person that did it.
Yep.
Because you joined that gang.
So, you know, if one of these priests is fucking little altar boys, or any little boy, you don't seem to discriminate, then...
So why don't you just finish up your tea there, Father, and get the fuck out of my kitchen?
Yeah! Like, it was like the whole movie was her just dropping the mic on people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Or sometimes kicking them in the balls, or vagina. But, like... You couldn't be mad at her, and yet you were. You're like, that's not, no. But like... Because
this movie isn't, you know, Mississippi Burning or something, like, I wasn't taking it that seriously. Like, I did have questions where I'd be like, well, why isn't she being arrested? Or you know, like, his movies do that, though. Like, his movies go to that extreme and go too far and are sort of, like, not super realistic. I think it's time to talk about the biggest clunker in the movie. So...
Woody Harrelson's wife.
So it's Abby Cornish, who she was in like she was in Bright Star, that movie about Keats. It's beautiful, beautiful movie. I really liked it.
Was she good?
She was good in it.
Oh.
But like she was properly cast.
Right.
She was the most egregious case of I don't think you understood what tone or your character wasn't really written.
Beyond all of that though.
But also you're very, very much too young and are Australian.
Yes.
They're your fucking horses. I'm gonna have those fucking horses shot.
I'll do it. You lazy bitch.
Thank you, Papa.
Weird. It's
Like, and it also felt like all her lines were 80 yards.
Yes.
She was in some other movie, you know, she would just be like, what is it, husband? It made me be like, well, what's going on with Woody Harrelson? Is it simply the fact that he needs 2 young daughters, so he must have to have a young wife?
Even if it was like a Emily Blunt or, you know...
Somebody could have...
Someone that could have just kept it in the...
I feel like Emily Blunt would work in a Martin McDonagh movie.
I feel like she could have worked in this. Like, she would have been young enough that, like, she could have given birth to these children, but
Right.
old enough that it wouldn't have been super weird that she was married to the sheriff of the town.
Right.
Who's still sexy. And apparently has a great cock.
Well,
we'll get there. You were really... I knew once we got there that you were not going to be into it.
Because Woody Harrelson is not a sexy person to me. He's not, like, unattractive, but it's a no for me. It's like Sam Jackson, where I'm like, oh, I just never thought about it.
That was a real nice fuck. You got a real nice cock, Mr. Willoughby.
So for me, it was a no. And then she was weird.
She was really weird.
So then it was weird.
That was the biggest problem. And it was frustrating because I thought that story was so sweet. Like,
Right.
It was really touching and sad, where it's like this whole thing with Woody Harrelson. He has cancer.
Right.
And he has these 2 kids. And, like, they have this romantic night. And then he murders himself. Spoiler alert. And you're just like, oh, God. Like, it's heavy, but real, but sad. And
But
also it's a
kind of
comedy.
funny. Yeah, like, it's weird. Well, I think part of the reason why Sam Rockwell's character works is because at the same time that he's very threatening and it's scary that he's still a police officer and he's allowed to do these things, he's also played pretty much for a buffoon.
Oh, he's an absolute idiot.
You know, and so it's not quite as like, you know, it's not like Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Bastards where you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna throw up, this is so intense. That's a different thing.
Because everyone is constantly undermining him.
Yeah, and he's undermining himself. Like, he's just a moron. Which is, like, also horribly tragic and sad.
Yeah.
That's allowed. You know
Of
what I mean?
course.
Like, all of the above.
Yes.
But it didn't... I was worried it was going to be too intense. And it rides the line. It doesn't cross a line where you're like, oh, that broke the seal, and that was too much. You know what I mean? It was right there.
It was right there.
It was, like, right up to the end.
Because I would say the closest that we get is probably when he throws
that guy out the window.
Red out the window.
Oh, that was terrifying.
And that was just kind of like...
But that was also like a changing point in the movie.
It was.
And there was change from that. And
That's true. There were consequences of sorts.
Like,
not enough, but like there were some.
I think the reason, like, the point that he's not in jail is the point that they're making.
White privilege.
You know, like, so I think that was the point.
Yeah. We haven't talked about the son.
Who was great.
I loved him.
I thought he was really good.
He seems familiar. He also seemed kind of gay to me.
Just a touch.
Just a touch.
A scope.
Like, I was like, if he was, I wouldn't be surprised.
Right. But it wasn't like...
And I might be pleased about it.
Why are you never on my side, Robbie?
I'm always on your side when you're not being a cunt.
Hey! There will be no more cunts in this house. You got that, mister?
What, are you moving out? It was a gag.
He was really good. I thought he understood the material as well, and for the few scenes that he had, he really utilized it.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was a very good choice that they didn't show her being killed and raped. I feel like that would have...
No. They
have totally spoiled the tone.
I agree.
That it wasn't enough that she was raped, and it wasn't enough that she died. No. Raped while dying.
The son reacting to it and talking about it
was tragic.
It's just as horrifying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yet it doesn't go over that line of like, oh God.
Yes. It doesn't make you like shut down. It makes you empathize more and just be really... I mean, it was like, this movie had me just being so upset.
We'll talk about the ending. I feel like it started strong and only got better and then petered out.
Sure.
Slightly. You know, it wasn't like... it made me think a lot about Wind River, actually, where... Go see Wind River. I know we've said it, but like, go see Wind River.
Yes.
But spoilers, I won't give you all the details, but spoilers, at the end of Wind River, you're like, fuck yes! I hope he fucking murders that guy! Like, you're like in a state of like, I hope he gets murdered.
I didn't really feel that way in this.
And I didn't in this.
No.
Because I don't think that's the point, and I mean, the end is conflicting.
The end is weird.
It's weird. And maybe that's sort of the point, I'm not sure.
Well, first of all, it's ambiguous.
Yeah.
And that's the part I liked, actually.
Oh, yeah. If it had just gone... So basically, shit goes down. Sam Rockwell is trying to change. He gets a ghost letter from Woody Harrelson giving him a pep talk about how he can be a detective while there's a fire behind him that he doesn't notice, and it's sort of hilarious.
He starts to do his own detectiving, and luckily there's this guy behind him at a bar.
Am I wrong? The guy that he thinks is the rapist murderer
is the guy that came into the store and harassed her.
Okay.
So this is my issue with it.
So why is he's from Idaho? What's going on?
Why is this guy from Idaho, who was apparently in the military,
right,
in this town?
Because he said, "I'm a friend of Chief Willoughby."
No, he said, "Maybe I'm a friend of Chief Willoughby. Maybe I'm a friend of your daughter's. Maybe I'm the one who raped her."
Well, sure, that was intense.
It was very intense. Here's my issue with it. They set it up where it's clearly this guy has some weird thing going on. Oh, he was very specifically talking about 9 months ago when he set a girl on fire and then raped her with friends?
Well,
how often does that happen?
My thoughts are he's lying. He's bragging.
But how would he know that?
Everyone knew that she was on fire.
I don't think they did. He didn't know.
She said it in the news report. She's like, my daughter's burned body is in 6 feet under or something. It's been 7 months. I don't know. To me, it seemed like, at first I was like, oh, so he definitely did it. And then it was like, oh, he's being like a gross person.
Well, certainly.
Who's lying, who's angry about something, obviously, because he feels the need to harass her and brag about this situation, and yet his DNA doesn't match. And so you're like, oh, that was the worst. Or, even worse, he's one of the guys that was just watching, but he was bragging that he wasn't. Gross. Although he was out of the country, so that doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
They were so definite about it not being him. I feel like that could have been slightly more ambiguous.
If that had been more ambiguous, where it was like, it wasn't him.
For DNA reasons.
Right.
But not out of the country reasons.
Yes. But then that felt weird too, where it was like his commanding officer claimed that he wasn't in the country. And then that was weird. I was like, what's going on here? There's police. It was all so weird, and it was all presented so strongly where you're like, but it was him. If he hadn't harassed her or something, if he hadn't harassed her, then I would have been like, no, it was just some weird mix-up.
Right.
And that's a bummer.
Yeah.
But the fact that we'd seen him multiple times and he harasses her and specifically goes after her.
If you live three states away, why are you invested in this at all? Why are you in town?
Why is he there?
The question.
That was the biggest question, was who is this guy? Why is he acting the way he's acting? Why is he such a fucking dick?
You know, maybe I was the one who fucked her while she was dying. How about that?
I would have loved it if the message was she had hope for a minute.
Yeah.
And then it was gone, and she's just gonna constantly live in this horribly depressed, miserable state where she's hoping that they find who did this horrible thing to her daughter, but they might never.
I mean, it seems like so next level what happened to her that it seems like, I don't know, the FBI would be involved somehow.
Right?
It wasn't just that she was murdered.
It's not just a local crime where it's oh,
and then she died. It was she was raped, murdered, and set on fire. That's next level.
Set on fire, raped, and murdered? How does that work?
Well, that was weird. So they're in the bar. He's overhearing the guy we presume is the guy, and he's like, yeah. And she was a flame. And then I was like, ooh, that made me want to fuck her even more. And I was like, that's dangerous. But also, so you're like, I mean, there are people who turned on by fire. That's a thing.
Sure.
Arsonists. It's very much a sexual thing. But literally fucking someone while they're on fire just seems impractical and disgusting. This is another comment that it didn't really make. She's a pretty young blonde white girl. This would be news. You know what I mean? Which is gross, but it's the truth. And so that's also a comment. If the victim was a person of color, how different would the story be in real life?
Yeah.
And it's so gross, but so true.
Yep.
It didn't explore that because it's not this movie.
No.
You want a resolution. You want the Law and Order wrapped up in 42 minutes. You want the perfect killer to confess in front of you, and that's not what usually happens.
Sure.
And I wish it had built more of them, Sam Rockwell and her, hanging their hopes and hats on it being him.
Yes.
And then it's not, and how do they react to that? I did love that Sam Rockwell and his mom have the same haircut.
Oh my god, she was great. The character was horrible, but she was great. There was a lot of depth to every character for the most part.
Caveat. Asterisk. any person that's a minority.
Pretty. I mean, because even Red, the gay, is he gay?
Question mark?
They all call him gay.
Right, but there's no like.
But yeah, we don't. I mean, was he with the girl, his assistant, who was dumb as rocks?
No.
She was better than the 19-year-old dumb as rocks girl.
Yeah.
There were a lot of idiots in this movie.
It was basically like Frances was kind of the only woman that was written well.
Yeah.
Where's Denise Watson?
Denise Watson's in the clank.
On what charge?
Possession.
When's the bail hearing?
I asked the judge not to give her bail.
At a certain point, I was like, "Where is Denise?"
Yeah,
Is
Denise gets
still in jail?
arrested for 2 marijuana cigarettes, and then
Presumably, I don't know.
is in jail for because he's like.
I was like, Denise.
She just kind of like left her.
Need a hand?
Hey. When'd you get out?
An hour ago.
Well, and then she shows up at the end, and is like, "Hey, girl, I'm out of prison," and I was like, "What?"
Yeah, I was like, "Hey, girl, I'm out of prison. Oh, who's this other black guy who's putting up these billboards with you? Now we're gonna date."
I mean, that's how it works, Andrew. It was pretty bad.
My biggest problem with it was the ending.
I know he isn't a rapist. He is a rapist, though. I'm sure of that.
Well, so is he guilty of war crimes, then we're supposed to believe? That 9 months ago he
was in Iraq.
burned someone alive and raped her
That was my question.
Iraq, Afghanistan?
I was like, oh no, so there's some more other horrible stuff. It was a lot. I don't know. I was conflicted.
Where does he live?
Lives in Idaho.
That's funny. I'm driving to Idaho in the morning.
Oh, how funny. I'm going to Idaho tomorrow. Oh, should I join you? Yeah, let's go on a murder road trip. Like, I was not really, I'm sitting there going, now you're these vigilante rapists, murderers.
But also,
like,
that's weird.
Like,
yeah.
I get it. The thesis is like violence begets violence, and then that's why they're torn at the end. You know, they're like,
Right.
I don't know how I really feel about killing this guy. How do you feel? And he's like, I'm not really sure. Well, let's find out on our sassy road trip.
On our
now we're
24-hour road trip. So first of all, meanwhile, I'm like Googling, like, how far is it from Missouri to Idaho? Ebbing, Missouri doesn't exist. But also, it's 1,600 miles. It's half the country. So it's not like they're just like hopping across state line, you know.
Which makes it even weirder that like, why is this
guy there? Why is he there in his Idaho truck? He drove that truck 1,600 miles.
To visit his friend to brag in a bar about raping a woman who was on fire? Unclear.
Seems weird.
They should have made his possibility of being the killer ambiguous. Because then you're still conflicted.
Right.
If it's not, if it's like, say, they get his DNA, he scratches him like a cat in the night.
Yep. Yeah.
He gets his DNA and, it's not him. But maybe he was complicit. Maybe he's part of this gang and he's culpable. Maybe he was watching. We don't know.
Because he says that there's like it was like the other guys they didn't rape her either, but they just got off on watching. And it's like, well, maybe he was the one that got off on watching and someone else did it. And that's their DNA.
I wish it had been like that. That would have really solved a lot of problems, because then it would have been like, oh, he came into town for some bachelor party, whatever it is.
Right.
I can fill in those blanks for you. But the fact that they were like, he was out of the country on military duty.
Right.
Is so definite. And it would have been just as effective if it is ambiguous and they're like, well, let's go maybe kill this guy because maybe he was watching.
Right.
Or maybe he wasn't. And that's put you in a weird place too. That would have really solved it for me.
Yeah.
So I really quite liked it for the most part.
Too.
The performances are absolutely fantastic.
Amazing.
The script is really, really well drawn, with an asterisk of there's problems.
Yes.
I would say go see it. It's a different movie. It's an interesting movie, and I think just don't take it too seriously.
Right. It is still a black comedy.
I mean, certainly a conversation starter.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers.
To Frances McDormand.
Oh my god. Go watch Blood Simple.
What was that with her?
Yeah, it's the Coen brothers' first movie.
Oh, wow.
And she's in it, and that's where she met Joel, because they're married. She's married to Joel Coen.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. That's why she's, like, in a lot of their movies.
Huh. Crazy.
Blood Simple. It's great. Felt good.